And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Thanks for making us a part of your Friday. How you doing over there, Ben?
Doing well. How are you?
Man, got a Jazz game tonight.
How was David James today?
Feels crazy. That's always fun talking to DJ. He's a thoughtful human. Talk to him for 5 minutes and you'll get that. So,
yeah,
it was good
from him.
It's a good back and forth.
Yeah. Tis the season. Hang out with DJ.
He wants to go.
He's always out and about.
He wants college football playoff to go to 24 teams. I think that's a terrible idea.
Should go to 4 at most. I'd say maybe
Let's
2.
Go back to 2.
Yeah, I've got no problem with 2.
I told you the other day, let's go back to the old bowl system where if you won the Big Ten, you went to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it's set up for you. And then they just say, who was the best team? You should be able to tell after all that.
Have some
13,
votes. 13,
14, 15 games, whatever it is the teams are playing now.
In all honesty, it was more fair than what we have now, I would argue.
I don't think you can argue it was any more subjective than what we have now. Right?
Right. And at very least, you got to see what you hope would be two great teams play each other. In the BCS, you hope that you had your two best teams.
Yeah.
At very least, two teams that deserve to win it. I mean, if you go to 24, what are you doing?
No.
Are there even 20? This is what I asked DJ. Are there even 24 good teams in college football? I don't think there are 12 good teams in college football.
Yeah, are you bringing Pitt in at this point? Let's make sure Pitt gets a real shot at this thing.
What?
Yeah, Arizona needs a crack at it with all due respect to
well, I mean,
fans in Arizona.
Think about it. If you go to 24 teams, now you're talking about teams with 4 losses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you should be able to lose 4 times in the regular season and still be able to have a chance at the national title.
Hey,
give me a break.
Duke would probably get in.
Yeah, Duke would be thrilled. Duke would be in. Knocking on the doorstep, at least. No, I'm totally with you.
I mean, honestly, how many great teams are even in the playoff? Is Oregon great? Because I watched them really suck against Penn State and barely beat a team that fired their coach, 2 weeks later?
Indiana's very, very good. They are truly, legitimately extremely good. They've got a potential number 1 overall pick at quarterback.
So there's one.
There's one. They just beat Ohio State, and it was close. Ohio State couldn't move the ball at all against Indiana, and maybe that's a tip of the cap to Indiana, and their defense is elite at Ohio State.
There's 2.
So maybe. I think Georgia's probably pretty good, and Texas Tech's probably pretty good. Sans a loss to Arizona State. They did have their backup quarterback. So no, I'm with you. This is
Miami is not good. I would argue that there's a chance Oregon's not good. I mean, Oregon proved fraudulent in last year's playoff, if you want to look at it that way.
I think that's totally fair.
I would argue that Ole Miss, how great are they?
Suddenly, Oklahoma absolutely can't move the ball at all over their last 3
They
weeks
never
of
have
the
been
season.
able to. They're an extremely flawed team. I mean...
No, what you're arguing is correct. There are not 12 teams, much less, with all due respect to David James, 24 teams worthy of competing for a college football championship.
And David, I of course bring up devaluing the regular season, which, by the way, is something Chris Hill brought up on David's show. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't seem to discards that argument with the TV ratings argument, which I hate. But it gets made a lot.
And also he's
saying, well, it's
cares
more
about
popular.
money.
Yeah.
You and I don't care about the money.
No. More popular than ever. More people are watching. It doesn't mean the sport's better. In fact, I think the sport's worse.
Yeah, the sport's worse, no question about it.
4 losses, and they're like, hey, we're fighting it out for a playoff spot.
But it is just everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course. They've built it up. They're great marketers. They really are. They've sold the college football playoff as a good thing. They're really good at selling you a lie.
And that makes a sport that was really a great, what is it, 4 months? 4 months of dominating not dominating necessarily, but being a big topic in the sports world, then all of a sudden you're college football and you're relevant for a month and that's it.
If this were a 4-team playoff and it was Indiana, Texas Tech, and Ohio State, Georgia in the semifinal, and then the final was 2 of those 4 teams, I feel pretty good about that. Seems pretty good to me.
Seems like you're going to have a pretty decent champ.
Ohio State was undefeated all year. They lost one game by 3 points to the number 1 seed in college football, who is undefeated. Georgia, top of the SEC, 1 loss. It's fine with me. Texas Tech, great. Dominated the Big 12. Had 1 loss. That's fine. Won their conference championship. Been pretty dominant and have one of the best defenses. I got no problem with that. Sorry, Oregon. You weren't better than Georgia in your own conference.
See, I actually even think I pare it down to 2. Let Texas Tech be eliminated. You can't lose to Arizona State in the middle of the season. Are you kidding me?
Well, you get a rematch of the Big Ten title game then.
Great teams don't lose to Arizona State in the middle of the season. Not that Arizona State, anywho.
So, yeah, I don't think expansion's the right idea. The same way college basketball expansion's not the right idea. We don't need to go to 128 teams or whatever the conversation was. And I get that's only technically one more game, and they love the money that comes out of it, and I understand why they do. But as we are learning right now with Utah, and Utah's not the only one, just this thirst for money, it's truly insatiable. It just makes you need more because, as we've talked about, the inflationary aspect of all of this just constantly ups the arms race. And the arms race is only funded by one thing, and that's the cash that comes in. So you add 128, why not just do everybody? Honestly, it's only 2 more games. If you go from 128 to 256, it's just 2 more games.
Well, that's another thing. Nobody cares how many games they're volunteering these young people to play, too.
Or where, or how far the travel is, or the fact that they're in school at the same time, or any of that.
I know people don't care about that anymore, but it's technically true.
The kids care.
That they have finals week the first week of December.
Yeah.
So you play anyway. Nobody cares about that. So why even bring it up?
Well,
but honestly, I think why. Oh, let me ask you this, Ben. Why is it so important for NBA teams to make the playoffs from a business standpoint?
It's generally where you make money.
It's where the profit comes from because you don't have to pay the players. You do, but it's basically nothing. What is it? It's like $500,000. No, how much is it?
And the players get X amount of thousands of dollars per round, but not millions.
But not millions.
Yeah.
It's the reason NBA teams like to make the playoffs is because they get those home games and they get to put that cash into their pocket. Whereas during the regular season, all the money is spoken for because of the collective bargaining agreement. Larry Miller was accused for years of not making the next steps to be great because all he cared about was just making the playoffs because that's where he made his money. I never really bought that argument, but that is true that they make that money. So college football playoff, they're going to volunteer these young people to play all these extra games, and yet they're being compensated for the regular season. So they're going to be playing all these games for free.
Yeah.
And it's because that's where these college programs are going to actually make their dough because now they're on the hook to pay these players. So it's interesting that you're volunteering these young people to play for free for how many extra weekends? For how many extra games?
Could be a month, Easily can be a month.
And could they get hurt in those games?
Absolutely.
Could they damage their future in those games?
Life-changing injuries? Yeah, every quarter it happens. Every quarter somebody's life is affected forever. And that doesn't mean it's so traumatic that they can't walk off the field, but maybe they can't walk when they're 50 or 60 or, yes, they sacrifice a lot.
And you know what the great part about amateurism is that you could take those arguments and say, well, go play somewhere else. And now all those arguments are all relevant. So we can argue about going to 16 or 24, but you're going to volunteer these people to play all those more weeks, all those more games, take all that more risk because you get a bigger piece of the pie because you've already spent money on the regular season.
Yeah. I am curious with the news that came out yesterday that Bird Ficklen's coming back to Utah, and it would seem like he and Devin Dampier are both coming back. That certainly seems the expectation. We don't know what's happening with Kyle Whittingham. Seems like the wind is blowing in all directions recently. With Utah needing an entirely new offensive line, BYU's losing a lot of their talent on the defensive side of the ball, linebackers, etc. What should we just expect these teams? Should we pencil them in at the top of the Big 12 next year? Do you think that's fair?
No, I don't think you should ever pencil anybody in at the top of a league. I mean, didn't Mike Gundy prove that pretty thoroughly the last couple of years? Yeah,
I think when you have returning quarterbacks, you have 2 schools that apparently are committed to paying top dollar to keep their schools or their rosters funded and competitive. I do think that's going to be the expectation for a lot of people, and I wonder if that dismisses the fact that, Utah's got 5 guys on the offensive line. Maybe Caleb Lomu comes back. I would be surprised. A first-round pick, why would you come back? But
how did that scenario work out for Kansas State this year?
Yeah, exactly right. It doesn't actually
How did it work out for
success.
Arizona State?
Yeah, not great. And they even lost their quarterback who's leading the program now, despite the fact that I would suspect they threw something at him.
So no, I would not pencil anybody in at the top of the league. I wouldn't pencil Texas Tech in at the top of the league. Anything can happen. Now, Utah has a more replicable offense than it's had in the past, meaning
more continuity in general.
Well, I just mean that like with how the spread option works, it's less reliant on a single player being dynamic.
Okay. But you do need a good offensive line. I mean, Utah has actually, even though I'm not sure we saw the bulldozer aspect as often, especially later in the season that we did early in the year, their running game backs up that they had one of the best offensive lines in college football.
Yeah, and I get your point. But with you actually don't need a good offensive line.
Air Force, et cetera.
You're never going to say, no, I don't want an offensive line.
Right.
It's never going to come out of a coach's mouth. But actually, you don't really need one. You need guys that are good at zone blocking and that are able to delay certain players, because the option is predicated on actually the defense not being blocked and which player does that defensive player pick to stop? That's the whole.
Yeah. What do they commit to?
You
do the opposite.
Right. So if they were running a pro style and they had a quarterback like Cameron Rising, who was very good at Utah, that's if you lose your whole offensive line, you're in big trouble. And then if you lose your whole offensive line and your quarterback, you're in even bigger trouble. But with the spread option, I mean, if Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin are proving anything, is the quarterback actually is pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
As long as they're dynamic in certain ways. And the line, yeah, it's going to suck not having the best line in the league. Sure, that's obvious, but it's actually less consequential in this style of offense than it is in others.
Agreed. And I recognize that.
So I would say the odds of Utah going into the toilet, I'd say those are much lower, because you've got a more consistent and replicable offense. It's more plug and play. And the defense is plug and play. I mean, that's been proven out. I mean, the defense really sucked against the run somehow at the end of the year. I don't expect that to be the case next year. They're going to button that up.
And they're losing some talent too.
But that's what they do, is replace talent on defense.
Yeah.
So I think the odds of Utah being decent are pretty good. But pencil in at the top of the league? Heck no.
Jack Kelly's going to the NFL. It sounds like L.J. Martin's going to go to the NFL, right? He walked on senior night, and he said, everything I've heard coming back is that I should do that. Do we know? Have we heard about Isaiah Glasgow if he's coming back? He's only a junior.
I don't know.
He would probably have a chance.
BYU success is going to be predicated on, does the Bear make the next step?
Yeah.
Like, if he makes the next step, all of a sudden you're talking he's in all-conference contention, and then, the sky's the limit. But that's a big if, right? Because he's had a lot of talent around him this year, a lot of guys that help make the job a little bit easier, L.J. Martin included. So what's he going to do next year now that he's got a year under his belt? He's a freshman, for crying out loud.
Yeah. He should be, I don't know if I want to say a lot better, because he was really good this year, but conceivably, yeah, the sky's the limit with his physical tools and the fact that he can execute throws.
If they let him.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to treat him like they did every game being against Texas Tech. I would imagine that's the case. But then again, if you don't have L.J. Martin, and it's not a given that you just replace a great running back. I mean, Utah was a quote-unquote running back factory for a while, and then really lacked guys for a few years, and they were going and moving Mekhi Bernard all over the place and trying to turn, players that didn't get recruited initially as running backs to come in and play that position. And they've relied on that quite a bit. So it's no guarantee that just because somebody takes his spot that they replace his contributions, obviously. So, no, I've been thinking about this with Bird, with Jay Hill losing some of his guys that have come with him from Weber State. Like, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to continue to do it now. And how will these expectations lead into next year with the new financial commitments from the outsiders or the boosters or the donors or Ocho Capital? I will be curious how that responds, because I think Oklahoma State is exactly the right team to look at. Huge expectations. Or Kansas State this year. Huge expectations. Their coach quit. Their coach retired because he couldn't deliver on whatever the expectation was at Kansas State this year. And Gundy just got fired. He's got axed in the middle of the year. So it's a difficult game to play in, and I think when you spend a lot of money, it changes the way people view expectations, and I don't know how much it should, in all honesty.
All right, stay tuned. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Thank you for making us part of your day. Top 3 stories of the day, KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials, J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number 1, the Jazz are back in action after several days off. Feels like they had a little bit of a winter break.
It does feel like a long time, and you know what? After this, they play Monday, and then they're off again until the 18th? I think it's something like that. They've got a long stretch. They've only played 2 games over an 11-day stretch, and that is not on accident. The NBA wanted to put some extra time off for players earlier in the season before the All-Star break while they conduct the NBA Cup, and that's been going on. Now that moves to Vegas for the semifinals, but it'll be good for the Jazz. They could use a little bit of rest. I'll be curious how close George Niang is to getting back. If not that having time off is going to help him. He's been off, but you're not eating up a bunch of games.
Well, the Jazz might actually stand a chance tonight, Ben, because the best player in the league, Zach Edey, is going to be out for 4 weeks.
Well, this is the second time this season he's missed a lot of games for stress fractures, right? Which he's 7'3" and 330 pounds. His body is probably not going to hold up. Now, he's been excellent this year. 13 points, 11 rebounds, shooting 60% from the floor. He's been productive, but they were really bad early in the season when he wasn't playing, and they don't have him again tonight. So we'll see what type of opportunity they have. The Jazz have not been good on the road. Jazz have 2 wins on the road this season.
Well, the Jazz haven't really been good, period. But yeah,
they've been particularly bad on the road. They've beaten the Brooklyn Nets, and they beat the Boston Celtics somewhat randomly because Boston was pretty good to start, or pretty bad, or pretty good now. I think they're 9 of their last 10.
Taylor Hendricks is doing G League. Other than that, they'll have what we've come to basically know is their full cast. So we'll see Svi HT in the starting lineup with Ace Bailey, Keontae George, Lowry, and your guy Nurk.
Doing some quick math, it looks like with Zach Edey out of the lineup, so when Zach Edey's not been playing for Memphis, I'm doing my math right, I think they're 4-10.
Best player in the league, I told you.
And when he does play, they're 7-4. So I mean, honestly, a total reversal almost in their record when he's been on the floor. He's a big body. He's hard to deal with. And one of the things I do think I've watched for the Jazz this year is when Jusuf Nurkic is the best center on the floor, they have a real chance to win the games. And when he's not, they've struggled. And he's not on the floor, or Zach Edey's not on the floor. I think there's an argument that Nurkic is going to be the best player or the best center on the floor tonight.
Realistically, how often is that going to happen?
Yeah, it should be like 12 games a year. You're talking about playing against Neemias Queta from the Boston Celtics or playing against the Nick Claxtons of the world. Nick Claxton actually had a good game for the Nets. But, these guys who aren't the most established centers in the NBA. And the Jazz will have a chance to win some of those. And now tonight, we'll see what they can do against the Grizzlies.
Man, the Memphis Grizzlies are going nowhere. Nowhere. What
they
a
are
disaster.
Stuck in that slog of not good enough to compete for anything, and certainly right now not bad enough to tank. I mean, they're in the 9th spot in the West. They're 2 games under 500.
Did you see Ja come off the bench to yell at a player the other day? Because he's not in the lineup. He's out. He came off the bench to yell at a player. You're going nowhere with Ja, and now you can't trade Ja, so good times there. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is borderline special.
He's a really good player.
He's a really good player.
Defensive player of the year.
But he's not good enough to take you anywhere by himself. And then they've just surrounded the rest of the team with a cavalcade of bozos and a stiff that is apparently important named Zach Edey.
Ja is listed as probable tonight.
Is
so
he?
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if he's back in the lineup and able to play.
Well, if he's going to yell at other players, at least he'll be in uniform.
I don't know if Ja is a positive or a negative at this point for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Oh, I think it's the same as Trae Young.
Yeah, exactly right.
Ball dominant guards, man. I'm off them.
Capable of putting up big nights, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to make you better, which, in the right spot, I still think Ja can be very effective, but he doesn't want to be in Memphis. And yeah, they're slowly spiraling, which I think is the worst way to do it. I think you either want to be dramatically bad or good. And they were good for a minute. It seemed like they had one of the most exciting young cores in the NBA, and they have really, really mishandled or misplayed their hand.
No, you have to have somewhere to go. Like as a franchise building, you have to have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
Memphis doesn't have anywhere to go. They're never going to be better than they are right now as presently constituted.
Yeah.
Like that's where you don't want to be. You like as bad as the Jazz are, they've got somewhere to go. They've got roster space, they've got cap room, they've got developing players, like there's somewhere to go.
And the flexibility to get there.
Right. Oklahoma City, even though they're the NBA champs, they actually have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
They actually have the ability to make their roster better and continue it out longer.
Right.
The problem with the Jazz with Rudy and Donovan is they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Memphis is terrible and they have nowhere to go. So by pretending that you're trying to build, you're actually lying to yourself. Memphis should absolutely trade as many players as they possibly can right now.
They are in a spot, and I heard a lot of this kind of talk about Memphis before, and why they won't trade Ja Morant is because he means so much to the city and Memphis itself. I'm just like,
who cares?
That's such a that's such a bad trap to fall into. The organization always has to be bigger than the best player. It just has to. And Ja's not their best player anymore. I mean, that's not been the case probably for a couple of years with Jaren Jackson Jr.'s emergence. So, yeah, to feel that you can't do what's best for the franchise because the fan base likes a player is really a dangerous spot, especially when the player is as mercurial as a Ja Morant is.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that about Michael Jordan. It's another thing to say that about. I mean, could the Jazz not have traded Joe Ingles because he was popular?
Right. You had to get rid of Donovan and Rudy at some point, because you did exactly what you're talking about. They got stuck. They didn't have a direction to move with those two anymore. Certainly not upwards.
All right, what's next?
BYU practicing for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but Bear Bachmeier still recovering from his injury, not out there quite yet.
No, not today. He'll play in the game though, but he didn't practice today. All the medical people, himself, everybody, he's good. It's not anything anybody's worried about.
My guess is that none of the upperclassmen practiced, or at least not practiced hard.
Yeah.
The point of going to a bowl game now has become the extra spring ball because you get all those practices. But now that's even less important because who's to say if the players are even going to be on the team?
Yeah, that's the other aspect of this that we just have not talked about a whole lot. We've made fun of Notre Dame, and I think rightfully so. We've made fun of Notre Dame for not showing up to the bowl game. But when you look at a Kansas State and an Iowa State not going, and I'm not letting them off the hook either, but they're not going to a bowl game, their entire rosters are going to be in flux. They've got 2 new head coaches coming in. Now, that's a team that could probably, in the past, use these extra practices, get to know their new head coach. They've already hired him. But these kids are still trying to figure out, where am I going to play next year? So why am I going to potentially risk injury before hitting the free agent market? And again, that's stupid, but the rules are stupid.
I don't even think the new coaches are eligible to coach in the bowl.
Can they not coach yet?
I don't think so.
So
I'd have to look into the rules there. I don't know if they can go to practice or whatever, but I don't think they can actually coach in the bowl game.
So regardless, these players don't want to play in these games anymore. And again, as we've talked about, in the past, it was your only way to get any material goods for your college career. You would get gear from going these out of the bowl suite, and that's just not the case anymore. They want the money, and I don't blame them. That's the rules that have been set up for them to play by. But, yeah, we're just going to see this less and less. And I credit BYU. I credit the guys who do play. I'll be curious how Utah handles it. If it's Witt's last game, I suspect more players will play. If Witt's coming back next year, you may not see both quarterbacks. And as silly as that sounds, because this was at one point a golden opportunity to only play 48 games in your career if you're lucky, 50 games if you're lucky, and for fans to be able to see the best product and travel to go see it. It's just not what it's being delivered anymore. But I'm glad Bears playing. I was glad last year that Colorado played all their NFL guys.
Well, heaven forbid if you're an underclassman on either of these two teams that is on the border, because I'm sure they're deciding who to cut right now. They're going, all right, who's making the cut
You're
list?
auditioning.
That's the point.
Yep.
What's next?
Number 3, yesterday, Bill Armstrong, Utah Mammoth general manager, released a statement. Logan Cooley, we have a timeline minimum of 8 weeks.
It's a long time. It's a big loss. He is probably been arguably their best player this year, and maybe not even arguably. I know Clayton Keller's, again, been productive, not as productive as he was last season, but yeah, they need Cools, not just this season, but they need him to continue to develop and play in these games. A lot of, big reason why they were making the push for the playoffs is because they wanted he and Dylan Gunther to have this opportunity to improve and play, and now they don't get that shot. 2 months, keeps them out through, is that mid-February? So we're talking about into the Olympics now at this point. I mean, it's a long ways off, and I wonder if that's how they're going to target this to make sure he can come back post-Olympics, but that's an opportunity for other guys to step up, but you don't really have somebody capable of replacing Logan Cooley.
No, but one player means way less in hockey. I mean, losing your best player shouldn't totally submarine your season.
No. And, yeah, you should be able to move other guys around and bring them up, and if someone can play that spot. Now, again, because of the position he plays and where he is on the line, it is a little bit like losing a point guard. It's kind of the guy who runs the system and sets everything up. And, again, Logan may have been Utah's best player so far this season, so losing him is a negative, but we have seen other important guys get hurt, and it's opportunities, like we said, for everyone else to step up and play well. And if they can, maybe when he comes back, they're better off for it.
Yeah, but it's interesting in hockey because he's only on the ice, max a third of the time?
Yeah, one period.
I mean, comparing it to a point guard, an NBA point guard is on the floor for 35.
Yeah. No, it's definitely
out
different.
Of the 48 minutes,
for sure.
And in theory, you have, 3 other capable point guards. In this case, we're talking
centers.
That are on the roster. So you would hope that losing one player would not be nearly as impactful as, say, other sports. Now, I'm certainly not trying to downplay how good Cooley is.
Yeah.
And I think you're right about that. But I don't think it should adjust fans' expectations. I think it's onward and upward.
I agree. It's not like he was playing at the level of a Macklin Celebrini or a Connor Bedard, these other young players that are truly the lifeblood of their rosters that have them exceeding expectations right now. He's a big part of it, but he's maybe not the guy by himself. He's not one of the points leaders right now in all of the NHL. So, yeah, step up. If you are a playoff team, you shouldn't be solely dependent on Logan Cooley. I think that's fair to say.
Jacob in. We'll have more coming up next. We've got Steve Bartle at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. Stay tuned. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob in 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. You can win big every Wednesday with Win Ticket Wednesday. Coming up next week, it's you can win tickets to Young Blood Idols, the World Tour at the UCCU Center in Orem, May 13th. Tickets are on sale now at livenation.com. Get your tickets today and listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win.
You a Youngblood guy, Christian? He's right up your alley, right?
He has an audience. I am not in that audience.
He's your age, 28. He's a little older than you are. But
Yeah.
He's super viral. He's really figured out the social media game.
I will say his Ozzy Osbourne covers are really good.
Okay.
That's about as far as I'll dip it.
He's quite sensual with his fans. He really pretty touchy. It's kind of weird. But the ladies love him. Fans love him.
Not a good speller.
Yungbuld.
I'm not a good speller, but that's not correct.
Handsome fellow, though.
Ben, I've got a couple of stories about...
You're done with Youngblood.
Yeah.
Those are good tickets. That's like a hot ticket. Hot in multiple ways.
I've got 2 stories about 2 coaches that I dislike. Notable short person Mick Cronin at UCLA. They've got an 8:30 tip-off against Gonzaga.
I'll do it.
Did you see his the toughest guy on the team is about to go do a radio? Remember that?
That's me,
drop?
pal. Okay, Mick.
But Mick, the head coach of UCLA, they're playing against Gonzaga. They've got an 8:30 tip, and he was asked about it. And here was his quote, Ben. Quote, "Don't get me started. Trying to stay positive. It's ridiculous. Why don't we just play at midnight? I mean, what are we doing? It's so disappointing. It's so crazy. Let's tip it off at 11:30. My dad's real happy about it. He's 84. He's going to have to take 2 naps on Saturday to watch us play Saturday night. I mean, what are we doing? I've got no words, unquote.
The toughest guy in the room is going to do the radio.
8:30 Pacific, 9:30 Mountain, 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. He's got a point. That's crazy. It is obviously how his salary gets paid. You know, you make your money off of these TV deals, and good for him for that, or at least in part. And that's why you get your rankings you do. But yeah, nobody's watching this game.
I don't think that's what he's complaining about. I think he's complaining about how late.
No, for sure, absolutely. He's complaining that truly it's a late game.
He's complaining about its effect on him personally and the team.
But why it's late is because they can put it on an open TV window. Yeah,
it is. But I don't want to hear Mick Cronin crying about it. Are you kidding, Mick? Try starting a football game at 8:30, you clown.
Yeah, and that regularly happens.
And yes, the television, when they split up the leagues, they left themselves with fewer West Coast games to put on the late window. We talked about it when BYU and Utah were going through the Pac-12 TV deal and all that stuff. We're saying get used to playing in the middle of the night because there are only so many teams that are in the Western U.S.
Yep.
And so, Mick, save it, bro.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to do it.
You should have fought back against joining the Big Ten.
You know, and he complains also about all the travel and stuff. And it's like, dude, nobody wants to hear it.
I thought that was going to be a really good hire, which is just proof again that there's just no such thing as a good hire. It just might work, it might not work, but I thought it was pretty impressive what he had done at Cincinnati right before he moved over. But yeah, he's not quite taken UCLA to the highs I had expected.
I have another story, but Christian just sent us some breaking news. Sherrone Moore's charges are in, apparently.
Okay.
This is according to Pete Thamel.
Sherrone Moore, the now disgraced, fired
Michigan coach.
Michigan.
Yeah. Per the criminal complaint, there's a felony charge of home invasion in the third degree. Also, charges of stalking and breaking and entering.
Felony.
So, yeah, the F word, felony. That usually means potential jail time.
It's not a good one. If I was... No, never mind. Felonies are bad. I'll just say that.
Man, Sherrone Moore had a bad day. You know what, though? Michigan is so... I mean, they're trying to come off clean in this whole thing. They knew about this forever.
Absolutely.
And
There's no chance.
This is when they picked to do it.
Their hands are not clean here.
And did you see the story that came out? I think it was yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, where that he was paranoid somebody was out to get him at Michigan. Not like physically out to hurt him, but out to...
Submarine him.
Remove him from his job.
Yeah, Shefty. Yeah.
So, I mean... Michigan that's a snake pit, man. And they're trying to come out altruistic, like we found out about this and we did something about it. No, you didn't.
To Jake's point, they probably don't care who they hire as their next coach.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I guess my natural instinct would be to zag and go the other direction and go get, like I said, David Shaw. Runs a clean program, or at least has NFL experience, was once a hot coach, extremely intelligent person, enjoyable person, yada, yada, yada. But they won with Jim Harbaugh, and Harbaugh was cheating. We know he was cheating. He's been caught for cheating. The program's getting punished for cheating, and then they went to a Harbaugh disciple when they replaced him. Yeah, so clearly they're okay with it already.
Yeah, they don't want it. Why do teams lean into running a clean program or hire the straight arrow or whatever? It's because they have a PR problem.
Yeah.
Michigan doesn't care. They don't have a PR problem. Michigan fans aren't going away. They're not going to be. Honestly, it's about winning at Michigan. If they don't win, they don't care about running a clean program. Look at that stupid documentary that they basically produced about Connor Stallions or whatever, letting everybody off the hook and saying it was just some whatever
rogue individual.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't have a PR problem. Their fans don't care. Their fans don't care at all.
And you know what? To the point. USC ran a quote-unquote dirty program for a while, and they were winning national championships. And, yeah, those have been vacated. And, yes, Reggie Bush lost his Heisman Trophy. But that we talk about those as the glory years of USC over the last 25 years. And they haven't been anything since then. And we make fun of them all the time for not winning enough since then. They would gladly go back to the Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, whatever they have to do years.
And they did not hire straight arrows after Pete Carroll. They didn't. No, they hired USC guys who knew how the game was played.
No. But if you can win, to your point, which was, when we were talking about this yesterday, where I thought maybe hiring a straight arrow was more important than winning, Winning matters more.
Nope.
It's what the fans care about more. It's what the donors certainly care about more. And a lot of the donors are dirty. I'm not saying they're Sherrone Moore, but
No, I mean,
they're going to pay for wins. That's all they care about.
I bet there's not one donor who's saying, give me a straight arrow. Somebody who's the program looks terrible. You know,
I'm worried about our image. Yeah, that's not what they're saying.
BYU was worried about its image under Gary Croton. And by the way, rightfully so. Good for them. And they did hire a straight arrow in Bronco. I don't think that's 100% the reason why they hired Bronco, but it was a nice byproduct.
Yeah.
Michigan doesn't care about that.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think they'll hire someone within the Michigan family, or they're going to find whatever football's version of Will Wade is, which they probably thought they were hiring when they hired Rich Rod. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what a disaster. As long as we're on college coaching, and we have Bartle coming up next, so we'll ask him about Utah's coach. But did you see that Bill Belichick is making staff changes?
I saw it this morning. I thought that'll fix it. Get rid of the special teams guy.
Well,
And they got rid of, Kitchen?
Freddie Kitchens,
Yeah,
the offensive coordinator, and special teams coordinator Mike Pryfer. But what did stand out to me is who didn't get fired. The defensive coordinator is still there.
Yeah.
What's his last name again, Ben?
Is it Belichick?
I believe so.
The boy?
And honestly, he didn't even fire his kid after his kid's wife was mouthing off about his girlfriend. Remember that?
Yeah. I honestly, when I saw the news this morning, because I looked at it very groggy-eyed as I searched Twitter, I saw Notre Dame, North Carolina. I saw the baby blue, and I saw fired or replaced, and I immediately thought Bill Belichick. And no, and I've forgotten about Bill in this recent coaching circle and cycle. But yeah, this is not going to do anything. It was amazing though. 131st ranked offense last year in college football.
Is that bad?
Was it 134? Is that what we decided how many teams there are?
Listen, NFL offenses and the whole problem with we're going to make the Tar Heels the 30 whatever NFL team is what works in the NFL doesn't necessarily work in college and vice versa. That's why there aren't a ton of college coaches that go to the NFL. It's because it's a different animal. So you bring in Freddie Kitchens, who was where was he? He was with the Browns, right? He's a longtime NFL guy.
Yeah.
Dion learned this with Pat Shurmur, I think. That doesn't necessarily translate into what works with college football. You want to take a stab at so North Carolina had 4 wins this year.
Mm-hmm.
You want to guess? I'm hoping you don't have their schedule in front of you. Do you want to guess what their best win was?
Oh man, did they beat Vautech?
No.
Okay. Did they beat a Florida school? Didn't they almost beat Miami or Florida State or something?
Well, they did not beat a Florida school. Hold on, I'll bring up their entire schedule. Give me a second here. And let's see.
I know they had like a close game. Maybe it was even the Duke game that it was close.
It was close against UVA. They lost by 1.
Okay.
17-16.
I think that's the game I'm thinking.
I would guess that is because Cal, they lost 21-18. Duke, they lost 32-25, so kind of.
Uh-huh. What was their best win?
Lost at Wake Forest 28-12. All right,
NC Southern.
I'll count up worst to best. How about that? All right. Their worst win was probably Richmond at home.
Okay.
They beat Richmond.
Go Spiders.
They beat Charlotte. At Charlotte. Why are you going at Charlotte? Maybe they play. Honestly, you know what? I bet they play at the NFL stadium.
Could be a neutral site.
I bet you that's why they did that. And then after that, they did have a win over Stanford, Ben, 20-15. But their best win was at Syracuse, 27-10.
Okay.
Syracuse. Actually, you know what? I might even venture to say that Stanford was their best win.
Yeah, Stanford turned it around towards the end of the season.
Syracuse was 1-7 in league and 3-9 overall. Stanford was 3-5 in league, 4-8 overall. Okay,
they got better.
Stanford is their best win.
But they beat Stanford early, right? Wasn't it?
No,
was
it
late?
was
okay.
Beginning of November.
Okay, I thought it was earlier in the season when Stanford was a disaster. Well, good for Bill. He's got that program headed in the right direction.
That Charlotte game was not at the Panther Stadium.
Was it at Charlotte? Well, it's driving distance. That's probably why they did it.
Why would you play at Charlotte? That's
How far is that? Do
crazy.
you know?
It's not that far. I mean, it's like probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer. But
Utah doesn't go and play at Weber State.
No.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, Utah State doesn't go play at Weber State.
USC isn't traveling to UC Davis.
Right.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Utah did go to Laramie.
Yeah, they did go to Wyoming, though.
Charlotte is not even on Wyoming's level. So, anyway, there you go. You're a Bill Belichick-led North Carolina Tar Heels.
Bowl game next year, baby.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. 6 wins.
Basically an NFL
And
team.
then they'll fire the coach and back out of the bowl game.
Stay tuned. Steve Bartle joins us next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. It's time to talk some Utah sports with the man himself. Hit it.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Steve, what's going on, buddy? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, fellas. How we doing?
Well, I'm looking at photos of Sherrone Moore right now in his courtroom appearance, and he's in a padded room with cinder blocks, and he's locked up. And I truly can't fathom what has happened over the last 72 hours in that man's life. It's insane what a fall from grace this has been. But you know what? To shift totally away from that, it's been kind of a crazy 72 hours up at the University of Utah. It feels like winds are blowing all different directions when it comes to Kyle Whittingham, even amid good news that Bird Ficklen's coming back.
Yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind, and certainly not anywhere near the sort of whirlwind that Sherrone Moore has been experiencing the last little bit. But yeah, things are a lot of talk, a lot of different topics and all that sort of stuff. Just a lot of conversation, a lot of digging and trying to verify certain stuff. And as of right now, things are pretty calm, but we'll see. It's certainly Friday, and that's certainly an opportunity to provide, a news dump if that's what ends up happening. I think there's certainly potential for that today, but yeah, it's interesting. And, obviously a lot of this centers around Kyle Whittingham and what he's going to do. And, as of right now, I think you can toss a coin and have, a pretty good chance of guessing what Kyle is going to end up doing. I entered the off season, coming away from that Kansas game, feeling pretty confident that this was it for Kyle, that 2025 was it. But over the last week, things have shifted where the conversation was more about him coming back and, this entire group running it back. But now as this week has progressed, it's gone back and forth both ways. And so it's there's been a lot going on and all of that. And I think there's certainly potential, like I said, for news to break today. And it would not surprise me if it's one or the other, right? If Kyle comes back or if he retires, it would not surprise me either way at this point.
All right, Steve, I'm going to, leave this vague, take it where you want to go. But what do you think about the Utah selling a stake in its athletic department to private equity and creating a for-profit LLC?
Big picture is that I feel like this is another step towards where college athletics is eventually going to end up, and a pretty big step at that. I've been of the opinion that since NIL became a thing and the transfer portal became what it's been, where you're essentially, dealing with year in, year out free agency, that eventually this was going to become, a professional sport of sorts, where you're going to have to collective bargain and go to the table with a players union and come to an agreement on various things to be able to enforce contracts and all of this sort of stuff. And I know that there's a belief up on Utah that eventually, football and men's basketball are going to become professional sports of sorts, where they're an extension of the university itself. And when you go back and you dive into the history of college athletics, that's exactly what sports, were brought to these schools to do. They were used as advertising to get people interested in attending these universities. And so, ultimately, I think this is just another step in where college athletics is going. With that in mind, pretty surprised that Utah was the first university to embrace private equity, but at the same time, understanding who President Taylor Randall is and his vision for the university itself, this aligns, with what they're trying to do up at the U as well. So beyond those things, I don't know a whole lot about private equity. I'm not going to try to pretend like, me reading a couple articles in the last couple of days to try and get a better feel for, what it's all about and what it's going to mean. I'm not going to pretend to act like I know what I'm talking about, when it comes to the money and all of that. But I think when you dive into, the actual details, right, with Utah creating an LLC and Otro Capital investing into that LLC specifically, understanding that, important decision-making processes and all that is when it comes to the actual people and product with the athletic programs, all of that is still going to remain in Utah's control. You start to understand kind of the vision here with it all. And I think for President Randall to find, a partner in Otro Capital with extensive background in sports, understanding the financial dynamics of sporting events and those types of things and the partnerships that they'll have available and will bring to Utah, it's certainly an interesting element to add to the conversation around college athletics. And I think the people that are, talking about the death of college athletics and this being, all of that, I think people are still trying to hold on to what college athletics was when they say those types of things. And like I said at the beginning, with NIL and the transfer portal, I've always felt like this was going to end up becoming more of a professional type of market, and I think this is just another step towards that process of college athletics becoming a minor league of sorts.
Steve, you brought up Taylor Randall. Two things are around that. One, Taylor Randall said in an ESPN article or on the meetings on Tuesday, there's equal risk of actually not doing anything to taking this in the LLC direction with this private equity. What do you think President Randall meant by that? And then second, you said if you understand his vision for the program or for the university, what is that vision?
So to address that first part, the risk in not doing anything is that you eventually you die a slow death, right? We know that college programs, athletic programs across the country are struggling financially with this new rev share being what it is, with also needing to compensate athletes of the past. There's a lot of money that is suddenly not available to these athletic departments because you have, over $20 million allocated now to paying players present and past. And so that is something that a lot of universities across the country are figuring out ways how to navigate that. Some are in better situations than others. And for President Randall and Mark Harlan, they felt like this was the best way to not only, protect the athletic department and ensure it, that it's going to be able to sustain itself, for the foreseeable future, but also position itself to potentially become much more competitive and to provide a more entertaining product, at these events. So I think all of it really it is going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. But President Randall is absolutely right that there's equal risk if they hadn't done anything and just stayed with the status quo. In terms of his bigger vision, if you've been up to the University of Utah anytime recently, you're seeing a lot of apartment complexes being built, a lot of housing units being built. It is turning into an on-campus university. This is part of a big vision for President Randall, and it's an important element when you start talking about the future of college athletics and having a stronger on-campus dynamic and being able to become one of the top universities in the country academically is a big part in that. And President Randall understands the importance of athletics and the value it provides the academic side of the university. You hear it all the time from individuals, whether they be university presidents, athletic directors, or coaches. When you have a team that gets to play in these New Year's Six bowls, when you have a team that's in the playoff conversation, all season long, that has a direct correlation to student applications and the ability to bring in more students, better faculty. So it all plays together when you're talking about President Taylor Randall's vision for the university. Is he wants the University of Utah to become a top 10 institution in the country, and all of this allows them to put it all together potentially and make those strides towards those goals.
What sports are included in the LLC?
I don't know. I assume all of them, right? But I don't know all the details, and I'm not sure that was addressed. But certainly you understand that the big revenue generating sports, football, men's basketball, are going to be the top two universities. Beyond that, I would assume that all other ticketing and other dynamics of Utah athletics will be included in the LLC. But, we'll have to wait till, once they hammer out all the fine details and get a better grasp of what this is going to be. There's still a lot that we have to learn about all this. It was reported that, the $500 million in capital, that's not even finalized, right? There's a lot still to be done. They're at a point where they obviously felt good about it, where they've come to an agreement on doing the deal, and there's a lot of pieces in place, but still they've got to get this to the finish line before we learn about a lot of the finer details of it all.
So, Steve, is the expectation that this is going to change positively the results on the field or the hardwood? I mean, is that the goal of all of this, or is this just to keep the lights on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably a bit of both, right? Because, I think it's important to understand that, that 20, going back to the 20 million in rev share, right? That's money that used to be able to be funded towards, just sort of your bills, for lack of a better term, right? You now have to come up with ways, whether you're cutting costs or shrinking, budgets. You've got to find ways to navigate that with a $20 million payroll now. And so part of this is to sort of, fill the holes and secure the floor. And that potentially allows where, you're utilizing a lot of donor money to pay the bills right now, where you have this infusion of capital where now it fills those gaps. A lot of that donor money is now freed up to potentially do more of the fun stuff, to utilize, create ways of third-party NIL deals and opportunities, where instead that money is currently being used to keep the lights on. That now becomes, for lack of a better term, fun money to utilize, right? So there's certainly a lot of potential for this to impact Utah's ability to generate NIL opportunities, which obviously plays a big role in roster construction. As we've seen with Texas Tech and with BYU, when you have NIL funds available, you can quickly change your roster and become a really competitive program. And I do think where the capital may not be used directly to NIL, to fund NIL, I assume that's the case. it frees up others and creates other opportunities to generate more of those third-party NIL offerings to utilize, in recruiting better players, which again gets back to improving the product on the field of play.
Switching to basketball real quick, the Utes have 3 games left before conference play. Mississippi State, Eastern Washington, and then at Washington. Oh, one more against Arizona at home, and then they start conference play. I'm curious to your expectations going into conference. What do you think is best case scenario for this basketball team?
Man, just continued progress, right? I think best case, like we've talked about, is getting to that 13th spot, 12th spot in the conference. The Big 12 has proven to be a much better conference this year than it was last year, right? Kansas looks better. Colorado, Arizona State look much improved from what they were last year. So this is going to be a tough year. And I think for Utah, I think what I've realized is, they lost Babacar Faye, who was a big guy at 6'9", 230 pounds. Seeing him around the other players, he's a much bigger presence than his 6'9", 230 frame would. Like, he's got long arms, and why I bring him up is his injury that he suffered, which happened just before the season tipped off, was he would have played a big role where Utah currently is just struggling a lot on the inside, both offensively, on the defensive end. And so, his absence has certainly had an impact on this team's performance to this point of the season. But I think for Utah, they're starting to figure out how to play better defense. They're starting to figure out a lot of things offensively. But there is certainly a big gap between where they're at and where the rest of the Big 12 is at. They're on an upward trajectory in terms of their development and how they're performing over the last couple of games. It certainly seems like progress is being made, but they've got a lot of work to do to be competitive in the Big 12. They've got a tough conference slate. They've got some tough home games. They've got some really tough road games. And this conference, like I said, is much better than it was last season. You can't necessarily look at a Kansas or a Kansas State as potential upsets like you could last year with the way that those two programs were playing last year. I think across the board, the Big 12 is playing better basketball. And for Utah, it's going to be difficult, but as long as there's progress being made, I think that's the big key for Alex Jensen in year one, is establishing, his brand, his culture, and showcasing progress. He's going to need to get, a couple signature wins in conference play, in my opinion. He's going to have to have those on the resume in year one to kind of build on things going into year two. But this is going to be a tough season as this team is currently playing. But they're certainly, like I said, on a positive trajectory with the way that they're playing and the level of play that they're at.
How does Utah feel about their bowl draw?
I think they're excited to be playing in Las Vegas. The people that I've talked to, and unfortunately we haven't been able to talk to anybody officially, up with the program. We haven't had any sort of media availability, so we don't know officially how they feel. But in talking to the people that I've talked to, there is excitement about playing in Vegas. Obviously, given the location for Utah fans, that's an easy trip to make. New Year's Eve in Las Vegas will certainly be an experience for players, coaches, and fans. So there's excitement from that. I don't know too much about how they feel about Nebraska, but at least for us here locally, the fan base, and that, I think there was a lot of hope that it would be a more competitive matchup against an Iowa type of program, right? A 7-5 record is, it just doesn't draw a lot of excitement. But again, I think the bigger point here is that it is Las Vegas. It's a 4 or 5 hour trip, and a lot of Utah fans, a lot of players are excited about that. So it's kind of unique where there's excitement for the bowl itself, but maybe the opponent, not having a great year and then kind of dealing with some things, and this as we've gotten into the off season, I think is certainly an interesting dynamic in all of it.
Steve Bartle, Las Vegas, New Year's. I mean,
man.
that sounds like a recipe for a good story.
Look out,
Great
Sherrone
time.
Moore. We got a new
Great
cellmate
time.
for you.
Whoa.
Easy.
Whoa.
Easy
I
there,
am going to
Benjamin.
be down there with my wife there, Ben.
Yeah, I
Whoa.
Hope you got room for two. Sherrone.
I was thinking like Countdown on Fremont Street. Ben's going a totally different direction. Steve, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Oh, man. Yeah, no problem, guys.
See you, buddy. That's Steve Bartle, our friend, covers the Eats
Why-
for KSLSports.com.
Why does every Utah lie about how long it takes to get to Las Vegas? Why does everyone say it's 4 hours? It's not. It's like 6 hours. To drive it, it's like 6 hours.
Who
Maybe
says
if you
4?
live, Steve literally just said it. But if it's like, I guess if you live further south, it's possible. But it's never been 4 hours. It's not 5 hours, really. It's a very solid 6 hours. And if you stop it all, it's easily 6 hours.
I would say if it's taking you 6, you're doing it wrong. 4, not a chance. If you're in like the 5:15, 5:30, you're probably at about the sweet spot.
It's never 4. And I hear that a lot. It's a 4-hour drive. It's like 4 hours to get down
But
there.
if
No, it's not.
you hit 6, that's because you hit the outlet malls in St. George or you had traffic in the gorge or something like that.
We can stop and get gas and have lunch, yeah. But it's not, Moab is 4. Easy 4. Getting up to Island Park, right around there, 4. You're talking Vegas is never 4. You're a Vegas. You drive to Vegas a lot.
Driving to Vegas for Christmas.
Yeah. You gotta carve out 6 hours.
Yeah.
You can't leave at noon and expect to get there by dinner at 5.
6. If you hit 6, you're doing it wrong. If you're driving down there
Christian
right
lives
around
up north,
5,
though. He's gonna
5 and a
tack
half.
on an extra 30.
I live a little more north than you guys, yeah. I could get there in less than 6, given
Right.
there's no traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, if you live in Beaver, maybe it's taking you 4.
Yeah, right. Maybe some Provo people can get there pretty quickly.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us?
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We're getting some more detail on the Sherrone Moore situation. He had his first court appearance today. Ben, you said the pictures are jarring. He's just in a padded room. Ugh.
Again, it's just crazy that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
He was on the sidelines coaching against Ohio State in a game everybody was watching. And now he's in a jail cell.
Nicole Auerbach, who works, I think she's with The Athletic. I could click through and find out, but whatever. She says the prosecutor, NBC Sports, thank you, Christian. She was saying the prosecutor says that Sherrone Moore and the woman had an intimate relationship for a number of years. Quote, our victim broke up with the defendant on Monday morning. She presented herself to the school and corroborated the fact they had a relationship, unquote. She says that Sherrone Moore went to the woman's house, grabbed butter knives and kitchen scissors, and threatened to kill himself, threatened her that, quote, my blood is on your hands, unquote.
My brother once ate a gummy worm that he said he had taped back together, and I was so worried about it when he grabbed the butter knife and said he was going to cut his stomach open to get it out because I thought he was dying. I was 4 or 5 years old, so I recognized that butter knives at that point felt dangerous, less so now. But this is unhinged. This is truly insane that we are at this point where, A, he is actually in jail. Now, he's being released on $25,000 bond, which is relatively low.
Well, it's a third-degree felony, right, is what he's being charged with.
He does have
2 misdemeanors.
An ankle bracelet. And, obviously he's got to do all the normal things. No drinking, no drugs. Got to stay in the state. Can't have contact with this woman. But, I mean, that's a real insane fall from grace. I do think a lot of times we view these, affairs with this type of power dynamic as maybe not emotional. For him to say that she's ruining his life, which maybe doesn't have anything to do with the emotion, but the fact that she did come forward to the school and it ultimately led to him being dismissed from his job. It's wild. It's
what it did was force the school's hand.
It did, and clearly they had investigated, and they probably talked to her and said, "Hey, did this happen?" And she said no.
Yeah, they both denied it, and
then she comes forward and says, "Actually, yes, it did happen."
So then they have to do something about it. But Michigan is saying they could not have known. And I still don't believe that.
Agreed.
I don't believe that for a dang second. But that's what's being said. She came in and confirmed it. Then they canned him, and then he crashed out, as they say, and is in. He's in big trouble. He's facing a felony and 2 misdemeanors. But honestly, financially, he probably ruined himself. I mean, I'm guessing a divorce is coming.
You would imagine.
I'm guessing civil lawsuits are coming.
You would imagine.
Specifically, this gal is going to sue him.
And he's not using a state-appointed attorney, so he's going to have to pay for his own defense in all of this.
Well, defense and a divorce attorney.
Yeah.
Which will be more expensive than the defense attorney, I would guess.
And, 3 kids involved. It stinks. This is a man who has made his bed. No one should have sympathy for Sherrone Moore. This is absolutely pathetic behavior. And my question in this always, and this just goes back to human nature, we're seeing this guy in jail now.
Uh-huh.
Is this a criminal who was masquerading as the head coach of Michigan? Or is this the head coach of Michigan whose life has fallen apart and now he's a criminal? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this always who this guy was, just below the sea, or just below the crust? What's the term? Just below the surface, and he'd just been put in enough good situations to not quite go completely off the hinges, or is this an actual just lunatic person?
No, I think this is definitely somebody dealing with mental illness. I think that is obvious. Threatening to kill yourself is
absolutely
probably a sign that things aren't going well mentally.
Clearly.
There are other reports out there that he had been struggling mentally before this. So,
and I'm not trying to make light of that.
No. I'm just treading lightly. And by the way, this is why people like Ben Simmons playing the mental health card when it's completely inappropriate. Really,
it's offensive.
It is super offensive because it's. A lot of people deal with this stuff, but the reason I don't feel bad for Sherrone Moore is because he made a bunch of bad decisions that had nothing to do with his mental illness. Now, him going to be charged with a felony and him still being in jail, there's probably some mental stuff that have really cost him in this circumstance. But the reason he's not Michigan's coach anymore and his family life is probably ruined is all him making bad decisions. And whether or not was he a criminal, making bad decisions doesn't make you a criminal. So the criminal aspect of this, I do think that there's probably some mental. I mean, you don't crash out like that.
His ability to spiral.
If you're perfectly sane, but him not having a job today or him having family issues today, that has nothing to do with mental illness. That was all bad decision making on his part.
I certainly don't think we're looking at somebody who doesn't know the difference between right from wrong, right? This is a guy who is covering up his affair by giving this woman a raise, boosting her salary by $40,000. He understood what he was doing, how to try and cover it up, etc. Apparently he just didn't realize how much was on the line, or he didn't care how much was on the line. And then when it backfired, he said, well, whatever.
Oh, it all caught up to him.
Yeah, it caught up to him.
It all caught,
he said, what else do I have to lose?
If you're living a lie and playing the shell game and all that stuff, it all caught up to him. But this strikes me as a little bit of a mental break. Again, I don't want to give this guy a pass, but crashing out like that. I'm not saying he's Michael Douglas from falling down, but it is the shell game caught up to him and he lost it, obviously.
I think that's probably a better way to say it than what I had said. Is this a crazy person? And again, I hate to say the word crazy person when we're talking about mental illness. I'm not trying to conflate those two things.
There is some crazy here, but I think it was...
Is this a person who was playing a shell game? And his entire life was a shell game, and now finally they lifted up the shells and there was no ball there. That's what's actually happened? Or is this actually a person who had his life together and it spiraled that far away from him in just a week? It's probably the shell game.
I would argue that anybody carrying on an extramarital torrid love affair for multiple years is playing a shell game. I don't know about his coaching acumen. I don't know. I don't know if he's just been a buffoon posing as a good coach for his entire life. Yeah. I have no clue. But I know, his personal life screams of
a show.
A shell game in a sense that he's carrying on these relationships and not telling other people about it because obviously he's not, and doing it for an extended period of time. I mean, that's not somebody who's got it together. I would argue, I don't know, maybe there's some polyandrous people out there that are making it work, but I don't think that's what this was all about.
He's not the first coach to be arrested. Coaches get arrested every year. DUIs every year,
Chauncey
all kinds of
Billups.
stuff. Chauncey Billups, again, truly spiraling. And in all honesty, today, would you rather be Sherrone Moore or Chauncey Billups? Probably Sherrone Moore.
He's facing less jail time.
Less jail time. Yeah, it seems less organized, at least, is the term I will use with what he has done. So, yeah, he's not the only person we've seen fall apart, but with this speed and the violence, no pun intended, of breaking and entering into somebody's house, and I'm glad he didn't beat her up or anything like that, but the speed with which this happened is seemingly unique. Chauncey I always thought was an idiot. I was very surprised he had the respect he did around the league, and I never thought he was all that impressive of a coach. So I wasn't maybe entirely surprised when the world around him crashed. And I don't know what I thought of Sherrone Moore. He hadn't been around long enough for me to really develop a major opinion on him, but to go from, 2 weeks ago coaching against Ohio State in the biggest rivalry game in college football to being behind bars because his shell game of a life fell apart is wild to watch. It comes for everybody. Not everybody, but I guess if you're running life that way, it'll come for you.
But here's the thing. When he comes unraveled, you can't go over and kick in the door and threaten yourself and others.
Our friend Daniel Tiger.
Yeah, right.
When you want to roar, sit down, count to four.
Yeah. Just take a beat, count to 4, and figure out what you're going to do. But
not that. That can't be the answer.
No. So, yeah, it's a wild story. I can't stop reading about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the epic crash outs in sports history. But I don't know. The mental illness part of it or that part of it makes it a little bit delicate.
Sure, absolutely.
This is
no
not
question about it.
a behavior of somebody that's really got it together mentally. But his bad decisions to carry on an extramarital affair at work with his executive assistant is kind of get what you got coming.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's the weird part of this story.
And maybe he was right. Maybe, Adam Schefter reporting yesterday that he thought people were coming for him. Maybe that's true, but did he burn a bunch of bridges so people were coming for him?
But
is that his fault?
Is that always true at every program in the country?
No, certainly not.
Oh, that people are
people are gunning for your job.
People are
going to disagree with what you're doing. Absolutely, yes, that's the case. But there are not necessarily everywhere someone's trying to plant stories about you.
No, but there's always some administrator or assistant coach
a
or
donor,
somebody
whatever,
that does not. Yeah, right.
That certainly exists.
I don't know if that's any special circumstance to this guy, and especially what Viper Pit, Michigan is looking like. Not surprised that he thought someone was out
gunning for him. Yeah,
because it was probably true.
His next court appearance is in mid-January, so he's got to sit with this for a month.
But he's getting out.
He's getting out. He will be a free man.
Well, I hope he takes better care of himself.
I hope he takes it seriously.
And makes better decisions.
No question about it.
All right, stay tuned. We wrap up the Jake and Ben Show next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Hey, Jake and Ben. Just was wondering about the story of why you two have your own theme music, but no one else does. Would love to hear that story sometime if I've missed it.
Because I wrote and recorded one. That's why.
Yeah, because Scott, thanks for using the call-in feature, as always, on KSL, the KSL Sports app. Jake moonlights as two things: the pre-half and post-game host for the Utah Jazz, and a super successful singer-songwriter and the lead singer. I can't remember what our band, what your band name was.
I don't even remember
forgotten.
either.
Yeah,
I think it was No Limits.
No Limits. Yeah,
like
I think it was something along those lines.
So I created a reggae jam for our show.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and a whole slew of great songs. Maybe we should play some of them.
We could relive some. I don't know. I've written a lot of them. I wrote one about Rock Olson.
That's up there with my favorites. And then the Dreamcoats, of course.
The Dreamcoats,
which is a dream forgotten now, unfortunately.
Right. I wrote some promo songs for our show. Sponsor of the show. You remember that one?
I
That
do.
one might have been my favorite.
Yeah.
Ben Anderson walks in the summer sun.
Oh, yeah, this is Ben being ashamed of his legs.
I wear pants almost exclusively.
Keeps them hidden tight. Long pants in the heat, morning till night. Mirror whispers cool, it cuts in deep.
Hands is out of town. We don't have the rock one.
No shorts for
I could probably find it.
Shorts for Ben. No breeze on his
No
knees.
breeze on his knees. He's ashamed of his legs.
Well, you're a good writer. That's why our top 3 stories at KSLSports.com, the headlines are always so good when Christian's reading them, because you're also the main writer there.
I want to hear the sponsor of the show one again. That one might be my favorite. Making it happen. Good guitar lick coming in. Intro was a little long.
Every once in a while, you get showy with the guitar
I
work.
do.
Yeah.
neon dreams light up the night.
This is Dreamcoats,
Oh, this is Dreamcoats.
right?
Jake and Ben show shine.
No.
Oh, this is sponsor of the show?
Yeah, this is sponsor of the show.
Okay. Some of your stuff in the last year started to sound like it to me. Which is why I like you took a reggae approach with us.
A world of wonder if you dare. But we need you now
We need you.
to keep it alive.
It's a real ballad.
Keep it a 5-7. Finals around the rack. Sponsor the show. Let the love flow.
Let the love flow.
Just once
Okay, you did find the rock one. Well, the rock one, in my opinion, is your hit. Maybe not what you're most famous for, but it's my favorite work you've done.
Got a story about a man named Hans. Used to play ball, had big dreams and plans. But he wasn't as good as his uncle Merlin. Always felt like he was just a throw it in. Now his son Rock, he was just a throw it in.
How did this not get me beat up?
He's the real deal. Gonna take the field, show him how it feels. Hans had his time, but now it's Rock's turn. He's gonna make his mark. Let the world learn. Let the world learn. Set to make his mark. The Rock's gonna take it to the highest.
It's really good. What I don't understand when you were recording this, when you were laying down the track, and we may have to cue up the beginning of it again, is you call Hans Hans.
I did.
But it rhymes with the word plans. Hans. But then he goes right into, he says he had big plans, which rhymes perfectly with hands, which is how you say his name.
It is.
Now, everybody who doesn't work with him calls him Hans. And you called him that in the song. And he hates it. And the word plans rhymes perfectly with how you're supposed to say his name, yeah?
It was a dig, yeah.
Can we hear it one more time? Just the first 2 lines there.
Story about a man named Hans. Used to play ball, had big dreams and plans.
Yeah, so I like it.
It was a dig. If you didn't notice, a lot of the song is a dig. Yeah. Oh, the dog about the one I wrote about Hans and Gus.
Oh, and Gus dying in his arms.
Sunrise hits Hans's face. Morning grace for disaster. Broke dawn with heartache. Gus gone, couldn't say my K9 master. Grief stricken, breath quicken. Held my best friend in my arms. Eyes heavy, mind spinning. Trying to stay calm through the qualms.
Real Imagine Dragons vibe.
Wheels falling, teammates brawling, paths clashing like storms collide. Hands got heart full of sorrow, sweat veins, head held high. Football's my solace, grit, on blind through the pain.
I like this one. I forgot about this one.
Spirit, giving strength, pushing through the rain. Oh man, I've had a rough morning. Tears mixed with the sweat. Gus's memory keeps soaring through every scrimmage and set.
Oh, I'm so glad he's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I liked.
Do people know? Do people have the original "Gus died in my arms" today? Do people know that?
People know that clip. It's been around for a while. I like the I wrote one about Lloyd being a cat smuggler.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys just have a lot of range.
A lot of range.
But you write about what you know, and you know the people you work with.
I do, and I know what they like and what they don't.
Anyway, Scott, to your question, Jake's got a whole album, but the intro of our show, Two Amigos on the Airwaves. What is it? Island Living?
Uh-huh.
Island Living.
Island Living.
From No Limits, Jake's band. That's why we have our own theme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we made it happen.
We being you.
I made
you
it
and the
happen.
band.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, we want to remind you about our friends at Miki Couture. Get the best blankets and gifts ever. Save 50% this season with promo code ZONE50. Shop online at MikiCouture.com or visit any of their 6 locations. All right, speaking of Hans and Scotty are coming up next. We will talk to you on Monday on the Jake and Ben Show, 97.5.
Thanks, Christian.
The KSL Sports Zone.